The protection of one's rep, of being bad enough, of being a stone jitterbug, was also outwardly displayed in the way a 50s era bopping or fighting gang member walked. The Diddy Bop walk was a slow, rhythmic way of walking that a 1950s era bopping gang member effected when walking around town or even at school. Author Boabdil Vasconcelos related the Diddy Bop walk, as well as the outward appearance of heart or courage, even when some boys of the 1950s bopping culture, deep down inside, were actually afraid but couldn't show it without being socially ostracized. You mentioned how he walked a certain way.
Yeah, they call it Diddy Bop walk. You walk like sort of like this, you walk in it, a little hop, a little hop. You just walk, like I'm trying to show you. You walk down the street like, and you look at somebody in the eye and you looking cool. What you looking at? You looking at me, mama, kick your, words like, and you were dying, you were scared out of your wits, but you had to talk that way. You had to walk like you were tough. And actually it worked. I would see guys when I was small. I'd see guys walking like that. Oh man, I'm not messing with you. I'm not getting the guy. I'm not even gonna look that way. The reason why these kids joined gangs was to survive in their own neighborhoods. That's how it started. That I can relate again in the 50s, early 50s, hearing my cousins talking, other kids speaking. Yeah, I had to join, otherwise I'd be getting my butt whipped every day. So then there was respect. Hey, kid, don't mess with that guy because he belongs to this gang.
So would you say a lot of there was a lot of testing of each other's?
Oh yes, oh yeah. They would be set, getting in each other's faces and getting up. Yeah, so far then hoping. It's like there was an expression we said. Um, he says this guy was gonna get into a fight, but the other guy was scared, and the other guy was says I was scared that I was scared that he was scared. So I'm so scared. So in other words, both of them would please somebody get in between us. And there were times when I saw like almost fights where guys would throw their hands around and not land one punch. Just go get they were just going like this, praying for somebody to break them up. I saw that a lot.
Ah, it was a show, you would
Oh
say.
yeah, oh, yeah. Sure, yeah.
Into this world of protection and projection of rep, which included the claiming of girls as possessions, both of which were at the heart of 1950s youth gang conflicts, came the youth outreach worker. More often than not, these were men of religious conviction who saw the reduction of gang violence as their religious calling from God Himself. Most of them were well aware that playing into these boys' egos and need for self importance was the key to turning them away from violence. These boys, for reasons already discussed, needed to feel important, and the gang outreach worker provided that. There was the Reverend Ben Mooring, who combined military drill, martial arts instruction, and theatrical training for his Centurions program. Members of his outreach would not only perform in his original musical stage plays, often sprinkling in doses of fight scene choreography, courtesy of Mooring's expertise in the art of judo, but director John Frankenheimer would tap Mooring for recruits as extras to lend authenticity for his adaptation of Evan Hunter's 1959 urban crime novel, A Matter of Conviction, itself inspired by the Michael Farmer case. Filming would begin in 1960 under a different title, The Young Savages, starring Burt Lancaster as the prosecuting district attorney. There was the country preacher, David Wilkerson, who, upon reading a 1958 Life magazine article on the trial of the Egyptian kings for the murder of Michael Farmer, would actually interrupt the court proceedings, claiming that he had dozens of teenagers in his flock, praying for the souls of those on trial. He would, of course, be escorted out of the court, but he would later work with the Mau Mau's of Fort Greene, who gained notoriety in 1959 for the shooting murder of 17-year-old gang rival Anthony Lavancino. Wilkerson's efforts would be preserved in the book and the stage play The Cross and the Switchblade, with the 1970 film adaptation starring former 50s clean teen icon Pat Boone in the role of Wilkerson. There was Youth for Service, whose initial successes, at least, would be compared and contrasted in the press of 1959 as a simplified narrative of what San Francisco was supposedly doing right with their youth gang problems as opposed to New York's. Youth for Service's work would live on in the 1961 educational film Ask Me, Don't Tell Me, which itself is often used today as source footage for actual 1950s and early 60s teenage gangs in various documentaries. The New York City Youth Board would also be covered in the 1950s press for their outreach program of turning fighting gangs into social clubs. The Wasted Years by Jess Stern and All the Way Down by former pro boxer Vincent Riccio chronicled their efforts. Among the youth board's workers included baseball legend Joe DiMaggio, who actually suffered an assault with a pool cue from one of his teenage charges during his early work with the youth board. At least, according to Vincent Riccio. The board itself would live on today in pop culture as a throwaway line in the 1961 film adaptation of the 1957 Broadway stage play West Side Story.
Me and Tony started the jet.
So where is he? How come he takes a lousy stinking job?
The youth board corrupted him.